Hey guys, what's up? John here from flyatmikealpha.com, here today with Sonia, and she is going to tell us all about how she became a private pilot, what it was like to become a private pilot, and basically time, cost, all those fun factors that you kind of wonder about before you actually become a pilot. So we have hiked up here to Thunderbird Falls. We are in Chugiak, Alaska, just north of Anchorage. Awesome idea to come out here.
Yeah, it was great. This is a perfect idea.
Perfect little hike, beautiful backdrop. We could do this at an airport, but guess what? It's super noisy at airports. It would make more sense, but there's so much airplane noise, you probably wouldn't be able to hear us. So we figured here was as good a place as any. Beautiful waterfall in the background. So basically, how old are you now, Sonia?
I'm in my early 30s.
Early 30s. Mm-hmm. Private pilot.
Private pilot.
Working on your instrument rating.
Working on my instrument rating.
Now, how old were you when you started flight training?
Well, it took me a while to get my license, but the very first time I tried, I was in my late 20s, 26 or 27, I want to say.
How did you decide to become a pilot?
It was just one of those things, you know, I went for a first date flight. It was supposed to be a flight from LA to Santa Barbara. Mm-hmm. He asked me if I wanted to hold the yoke, and I was like, sure. Kind of was a little scared and held it, and I was like, wow, this is the most amazing thing. I'm definitely going to do this one day. Mm-hmm. And I think the next thing that happened was just meeting different pilots and kind of getting more immersed more and more, and just doing one thing at a time, one lesson at a time, 1 hour at a time, to a point where I can finally sign up for an official flight school and go for the license.
Absolutely. So how long did it take you from zero all the way through to your check ride? How many hours did it take?
I think around, I want to say 65 hours, something around there. But I kind of I started my training, I soloed, and I had to put it on hold, and then I did it again. Actually, I had to stop twice, so that was my third attempt in between medical school and my residency training. So finally, when I started, which was during my third year of residency, it took me about a month. And I was flying 3 times a day, sometimes 4, sometimes 5.
Okay. So really hitting it pretty hard.
Yeah, and I think at that point I had about 25 hours when I restarted, and then
mosquitoes in Alaska are pretty brutal this time of year.
I had about 25 hours when I restarted, and did about 30-40 hours and got my license.
Okay. Yeah. So altogether, start to finish, what would you say, it was about a year, or?
It took me 8 years.
8 years?
Yeah.
8 years start to finish.
So maybe a little bit, no, about less. I did have to take the written test twice because it expired.
Because the written's good for 2 years.
About 5 years. I want to say about 5 years.
Okay.
I started in Las Vegas in my medical training, and then I stopped. Finished medical school. I had a few months off between medical school and residency. I started flying again, soloed, and then I stopped. And then 2.5 years later, that's when I restarted and completed it. Yeah.
So that's the story for a lot of people, is they start, they stop, they start, they stop. It's hard to fit in flight training with your everyday life. So you finally found a break in between medical school and residency to really hit it hard. And you said you were flying a couple times a day, about 5 times a week or so. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't until after, during my residency that I could do it.
Gotcha. So what did it look like? You were going through residency then. What did your Sunday to Sunday schedule look like then, working, studying, and flying? How'd you fit all that in?
I have to say that 1 month or 1.5 months that I was doing the training and doing my residency, it was just absolutely intense. Probably the craziest thing I've ever done. I was waking up at about 3 a.m., 4 a.m. I had to be in the hospital by 5:30 usually.
Yeah, residency is crazy enough to then throw flight training in with that.
Yeah, I was a senior resident, which kind of would alleviate a little bit of the pressure. But I was overseeing 30 patients and maybe 6 or 7 other residents. So I felt very responsible. So I was in the hospital usually until 2 p.m., sometimes 3 p.m. From the hospital, I would drive an hour all the way to Pompano. I most of the time had a flight scheduled at 4, sometimes 5.
Gotcha.
Sunset was around 6. And once I was there, I would stay at American Flyers, study for about an hour to kind of avoid the traffic, and then it would still take me an hour to get back. And then once I would get back, that wasn't the end of the day. I would still study flight plan. If I had to look up some stuff on my patients, that I had a couple of hours in between that I would do all of that and go to bed at 10, wake up at 4, shower, and do it all over again.
So the biggest takeaway here is, although one of the busiest times of your life, being a medical resident, and you're just slam busy.
Yeah, and actually there was one other thing that I was doing. So that was just Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
And then Saturday and Sunday, I had to work at the urgent care to be able to pay for all the training.
Gotcha.
That was 13-hour shifts. So it was kind of a crazy
tons of
time.
work, tons of studying, and it all still works out. So even though you're crazy busy with life and kids and work and whatever it might be, you can find time to do flight training.
It's hard. But
you have to
doable.
make a few sacrifices, but if you want to be a pilot, if you really want to be a pilot, it's an achievable goal, even at a super busy time in your life, like being a medical resident and being totally broke and working two jobs.
Yeah.
So awesome. So then, what airplane did you use for your training?
172. Cessna
172. Cool. What would you say it cost you all the way through, start to finish, spread out over all those years?
I want to say anywhere. Well, just the checkride was about $1,000 itself, if not more. But I want to say around 15,000.
About 15,000 all the way, start to finish.
Yep.
Okay. Now, what advice would you have to someone who doesn't want to spend $15,000? Maybe they, what advice would you give someone who wants to save some time and money in the flight training process?
I would definitely recommend to start doing the ground lessons, maybe your videos before you start flying. That will save you a bunch of time and a bunch of money. Have the aviation knowledge before you start flying, and definitely go on a couple of discovery flights before you actually sign up for the flight school, just to make sure that is something that you would want to do.
Yeah, one of the best ways to do it is to go ahead, start off with a free ground school at flyatmikealpha.com. You can start off with a free ground school, and then from there, you can go find a local flight school, Google it, go look on Google Maps, find somewhere to take a discovery flight. It's usually $80, $100, $150. Get yourself into an airplane, get hooked up with the flight school, and figure out if being a pilot is something you actually really want to do with your life, whether for fun or as a career. What kind of school did you use? Part 141 or Part 61?
It was a Part 61.
Awesome. Okay, so a little bit more flexible at your own pace, especially when you're starting out over 5 years. 141 is not really going to fit you.
Yeah, and exactly. And I had some hours from soloing in the past, so it kind of wouldn't work with my hours to do the 141 route.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. What was the hardest part of training?
I think getting the landings right was pretty hard. I was getting close to having that feeling that maybe I can never do this. But once you get the landings right, everything just falls into place and everything clicks, and 5 hours later you're a private pilot.
Yeah. So it comes together pretty fast. Yeah.
It does. Well, maybe a little bit more than 5, because you need 10 hours of solo
time.
country. Yeah, 10 hours later.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a struggle, and it's definitely, you hit those hard patches, those rough patches, and then all of a sudden things click, and it moves pretty quick from there.
Yep.
Did you ever feel like quitting, or just kind of saying, hey, I've put enough time, money into this, and I'm going to give up now?
It was one of those things that I really wanted, so quitting was just not part of the equation for me.
Yeah.
At some point, when I was struggling with the landings, I thought, well, maybe I'm less than the average person. Why is it taking me so long? And then my old instructor just told me, you know what, just show up and one day you'll get it right. And then the very next day I was like, oh my God, I got the landings. This was like the smoothest, most perfect landing I've ever done. And from that day on, I just kept showing up and did my best, and it worked out.
Yeah, it does. It does take time to just kind of hit that point where you just click and you kind of hit your stride as a pilot, where you really start to feel the airplane and can really put everything you've learned in ground school and learned from your instructor all into practice at the correlation level, and actually fly the aircraft, safely, comfortably, and a little bit more relaxed, not just that death grip on the yoke like you have the first flight lesson.
Yeah.
What advice would you have to someone who's thinking about giving up to flight training and just
don't give
calling
up,
it quits?
just show up.
Don't give up, just show
up. Don't relax, don't panic. Just study as much as you can. Be patient. I think patience is the number one thing when it comes to flight training.
Awesome. Was it worth it?
Definitely worth it.
Definitely worth it?
Probably the best thing I've ever done in my life.
It brought you to Alaska.
Yeah, absolutely.
It brought you a whole lot of other amazing cool places.
I can combine nature with aviation in Alaska. It's perfect.
Yeah. No, it's I would definitely say it was cost me a bit of money too, and a lot of time, but totally worth it. What general advice do you have to give somebody who's just thinking about, hey, you know, I've never flown an airplane, but maybe I want to get into it?
I would tell them, you know, to definitely try a discovery flight first. If they know someone who's a pilot, just ask them to take you out for a ride. Maybe, you know, fly a little bit, hold the yoke. Flying is one of those things that you either love it or you don't care much for it at all. So if you do go for that flight and you absolutely feel like your world is about to change, then that's the feeling that you'll know that you want to have your license, and just go from there.
No, it makes a ton of sense. And honestly, if you don't have $150 in your pocket to go for a discovery flight at a flight school, just show up to your local general aviation airport on a Saturday morning when everybody's flying, go hang out in the lobby and just start asking some people, hey, are you a pilot? Are you a pilot? And one of them will be, and say, hey, you know, I think I might want to be a pilot. Can I hop in the airplane? I'll give you some gas money.
Can't say I haven't done that.
Yeah. No, it's a great way to actually just go fly sometimes. Yeah. Especially if you hit a lull in your training and you can't afford flight lessons right now, just go hang out at the airport. Somebody will probably give you a ride. They're going somewhere and they'll take you along with them. So basically, if you guys have any questions on this, if you think you want to become a pilot, hopefully this was helpful to you, give you kind of an overview of how Sonia accomplished it and how she came to be a pilot.
Yeah, and if you have any questions, just let me know.
Yeah, hit her up on YouTube, hit her up on Instagram, the Instagram thing. That's your Instagram right there. Yep, Sonia, how do you say it?
Sonia Khaneb.
Yep, that's your Instagram. And you can message us on Instagram at FlyatMikeAlpha, or leave your questions in the comments below. Visit flyatmikealpha.com if you have any questions. Post them up on the website. Some of our flight instructors will respond to you guys. And remember, if you can't fly every day, flyatmikealpha.com. We'll see you guys next time.
Thank you for having me.
It's awesome. This is beautiful. Alaska's beautiful. You guys should really become a pilot and fly up here.